Hello and welcome to CRU News. I'm Khushbu Soni, your host for the broadcast and chief editor at CRU News. This is our exclusive interview series with our Wonder Woman in Tech. It is a recorded session and will be available on our website, that is crunews.co.in, and our CRU News LinkedIn handle. It gives me a pleasure in inviting our next Wonder Woman in the tech industry. She is Tannya Jajal, Professional Services EMEA and Resource Manager at VMware. Tannya is a technology author, AI enthusiast, futuristic, and UAE chapter lead for the Global Women in Tech movement. Through her work, Tannya encourages current and the future leaders to explore the ethical and practical implications of exponential technologies on business, life, and society at large. Tannya is an advocate of radical innovation, the rise of meaningful work and skills in the post-automation world, and a proponent of educational reform. It's an absolute pleasure to have you, Tannya, and I'm really excited to hear your journey in the tech industry. So, really looking forward to this conversation. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Khushbu. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. So, Tannya, to begin with, I would like to put my first question. Being a woman, and especially in the tech industry, working and balancing both your work and your person, what does your typical day look like?
That's a great question, because I think for me specifically, from the very beginning, I've been a big advocate of hacking a flow state into my day-to-day. And that means finding the right set of challenges that keep me motivated and that match my skill set, right? And personally, I'm a very dynamic person, so I'm big on discipline, but not necessarily on repetitive routine. And so my day-to-day is quite interesting. That's part of why I do so many things, right? I work at VMware. At VMware, I'm the resource manager covering the METNA region. And that means that I interact with a lot of stakeholders to ensure that there's enough skill sets within the region, that is within the Middle East, Turkey, and North Africa region, of people who have VMware knowledge in VMware products and solutions, right? So in cloud technologies. But on the other hand, I also spend a lot of my time, of course, leading the Women in Tech chapter here in the UAE, and that involves engaging with our community to sort of increase the number of women who are in this space and who are hoping to work in tech, or who currently work in tech, and to get their voices heard. And additionally, I do a lot of speaking, public speaking, reading, writing around what it means to live in the technology era, because I'm specifically passionate about what the future of work might look like and what future skill sets we may need to thrive in the workforce, right? Especially in a post-AI and post-automation world. And so I really truly split my time between those two things, which is doing my day job, interacting with a lot of exciting stakeholders at VMware, and then spending time mentoring and engaging with the community and doing community style work.
Wonderful. Wow. Exciting. My next question is, did you always know that you wanted to work in the technology space? If not technology, what else you would want to do?
Actually, I didn't know I wanted to work in the technology space. Up until my second year of university, I studied in Boston at Brandeis University. Up until my second year, I was sure I wanted to become a lawyer. Okay. And I was on the pre-law track. I studied economics and political science. But somewhere along the line, I was also reading a lot of what thinkers like Ray Kurzweil and Sheryl Sandberg were saying. And Ray Kurzweil is the former director of engineering at Google, as well as one of the best known predictors of future technology. And that when I was exploring his work and his thoughts, it started to change the way that I think about the world and the way that I perceive specifically what the future of work would look like and how it affects my generation and future generations. So as a result, I realized and recognized in myself that I wanted to work in a fast-paced, dynamic space. And that's why I chose technology. So I started to build myself up after that point, even though I had an economics degree and network in the technology area, and build a bit of thought leadership in that space to eventually get me to VMware.
Wonderful. Awesome. Like you also mentioned that, you're always excited to, in fact, see how we can increase women in the tech space and see an equal, distribution on both the gender equality across the industry. So we don't see that it's any secret anymore that we don't see many women in the tech space. Do you see that as a challenge? We did have that earlier, but do you still see that as a challenge? And um, did it always have an effect, the way it has been treated or perceived in the industry? Have you been in a situation like that? How did you handle this particularly?
Absolutely. I think it's a relevant, very relevant question for a lot of women who are actually in technology. Personally, from my perspective, yes, I've had certain personal incidences in which I've felt as though the fact that I'm a woman either can play in my favor or can work against me, or it can be cause for inappropriate gestures or inappropriate being approached in an inappropriate way, right? Even if people don't realize it, things don't have to be explicit for them to be sort of difficult for the person who's experiencing them, right? So in that sense, I think there's a lot of implicit bias that women experience still in the workplace. But that said, from my personal experience, specifically in tech, and specifically with large organizations like VMware, like Google, like maybe even like Facebook, the amazing thing is that they're really progressive organizations, right? And you've got leaders within these organizations who are very progressive, and they're thinking not just about today or tomorrow, but they're thinking about, the generations to come, and they can see the big picture. And they know that if we want to succeed and if we want to thrive in the technology era, if we want to thrive alongside AI, for example, we need to let go of our human biases, right? And that includes gender bias. And I think that's fantastic because you can see a real sort of desire or longing within tech companies to have more diverse voices because they see the power in diversity. But we're still a long way to go because one thing that I've experienced at least is that we have a lot of younger graduates, especially in the Middle East right now, who are graduating with engineering degrees and who are ready to work in computer science, for example, right? But you've got a lot of women in there now who would now be in their mid 30s or 40s who took a break from the technology space, even if they joined it back in the day. And that has caused a bit of a lag. And so it's difficult for tech leaders to find female talent that have had a substantial and consistent amount of experience. And that still poses a challenge. And that's still something we need to work on because I think we need to change the mindset in terms of how we're hiring people or the kind of women that we are hiring.
Right. Good insight, and I think that, like you very correctly mentioned, I think that there are, in fact, while I've been interacting with women across multiple geographies, I've been hearing challenges specific to different regions. So, good to hear from the perspective of Middle East specifically. My next question is, what do you think is the best part of being a woman in the tech industry?
I would say one of the best parts is the fact that it kind of feels like you're at the beginning of something new. It kind of feels like you're at the beginning of this new movement and drive towards diversity, right? Which means that as a woman in tech right now, there's a lot of opportunity to do impactful work. And I think most people who go through their corporate lives and their careers at some point feel the longing to do some sort of impactful work. And that's, engaging with the community, mentoring, passing knowledge along, or even just delivering workshops and doing something, right? Or investing, right? For that case. And so the really exciting thing about being a woman in tech is that one, you get to experience it. You see that it's special, it's new. The fact that women work in tech right now, and the fact that there are more opportunities and there's more of a push to hire women in tech. And two, there's a lot of work that you can do, and there's a lot of people you can help to get into tech once you're in there. And that ties into a lot of the work that I do with the UE Women in Tech chapter, which is really, engaging with that wider community.
Awesome. Great. do you do you see a lack still in for women in the tech industry in Middle East specifically? And if that's the case, how do you think is the way forward to this?
There's definitely a lack. So the amazing thing is that the government is putting a lot of incentives, and it is really pushing to have women in STEM, right, generally, which is an incredible thing about the UAE. And I'm sure that the other Gulf states will follow through as well. But there is a lack because, like I said, specifically when it comes to doing technical roles, so women in engineering jobs or solution engineering jobs, I find that I suspect that leaders find it very difficult to find women who are now in their mid-career level and who have consistently been working in technology and working with the products and solutions that are constantly changing. And that's because a lot of those women have taken breaks from their careers, whether it's for family or for whatever reason, right? Because just a few decades ago, or even a decade ago, workplaces were not so amenable to women having children and then coming back into the workplace. And that's quite new. Those trends are new and upcoming, which means that that generation of women, of experienced women today, will struggle to have worked with the sort of technology that we require them to have worked with in roles today. And as a result, there's that lack of women in technical roles, in mid-level technical roles. So I would say there's more of an abundance at the graduate or the younger level, but there's a lack at that mid-career role. And maybe what it requires is reskilling of people who are already in their mid-career to take on technical roles.
Correct. True, very true. I think there is a phase, in the career of women where they need to decide between the family and the career, and that is usually at the mid level of their career. And that is when we've seen a lot of women tend to, of course, prioritize the family, but I think with all the work from home, hybrid working model coming in place, we've seen that there is an opportunity for women who are managing families can again get back to work and work. So I think the whole COVID has also given a lot of opportunities in flexibility of working. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. My one last question, any advice that you would like to give to women considering a career in the tech industry, and what do you wish you had known?
I would say don't let the fact that you don't have a specific trade, a specific degree, or specific qualifications hold you back from pursuing that career in technology. Because today we live in a world where just what your degree certificate says or what your specific background says is not as relevant as your ability to learn and unlearn and relearn, right? And that's because we live in an era of abundant information, and we have the world's encyclopedias in the palm of our hands, on our phones or on our tablets and laptops. And that means that we can upskill and really put ourselves out there. But I think what a lot of women struggle with is imposter syndrome and holding themselves back from, just really going for that going that extra mile, or going for that extra milestone, because they think that they don't have the qualifications to do so. So I would say try to let go of those self-limiting beliefs and just push forward, because I think that's what a lot of men do. And I think that's what people should do in general.
True, very true. Awesome. This has been a great conversation, Tannya, and thank you once again for joining on CIO News platform and sharing your perspective on this platform. It's a pleasure to have you, and truly a wonder woman in the tech space, where you are inspiring a lot of women in Middle East, working towards the towards the community. It's really great to see that. So thank you once again, and pleasure to host you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good.